coming to a stop while riding an adventure bike while taking a selfie. Kinda cool. So this is my new ride, Honda Africa Twin Adventure Sports DCT version. For those of you who may not be familiar, DCT stands for Honda's dual clutch transmission, which basically is an automatic version of their motorcycle. I'm not 100% sure, but I think DCT only comes in Africa Twin. I may be totally wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain. Anyway, I've had the bike for about 3 weeks now. I've been to the mountains 2 times. I didn't want to video that. I wanted to get used to the bike. I've not been on a bike this powerful in a long time. With it's got a 1000cc engine, and I wanted to make sure before I start a video or vlog that 1, I'm safe, and 2, I don't make a fool of myself any more than I normally do when I'm riding. So anyway, this is my first vlog on the Africa Twin. Welcome. Last video talked about why I kept the KLR even after making this purchase. All those are still valid points. Similarities between the Africa Twin and the KLR. There are a few. Not many, but there are a few. The height of the bike. This is a very tall bike, especially the Adventure Sports model is a taller bike even than the Africa Twin, the normal version, which is already a tall bike. So the height of the bike, again, suits me. Large fuel capacity. KLRs are known for having large gas tanks. The standard standard Africa Twin, I think, has a 5.4 gallon. This is a 6.4 gallon, 6.4, 6.3, somewhere around that. Large gas tank, a lot of range. When I fill up, the range, and this does have a fuel gauge, difference from KLR. When I fill up the range, it basically says 310, 320 miles. So can go a long way on this bike. Do anything, made for road, made for off-road, like any adventure bike is and claims. This one, very similar to the KLR, is made very much leaning towards off-road riding. It feels like it needs to go off-road. Again, I haven't taken it off-road, but you could just tell from the suspension and the gearing. I can't wait to get this thing off-road. This bike really feels like it wants to be off-road and ridden in some tight turns, gravel. When I take it in the mountains and get on some small narrow roads with some twisties, it loves it. The suspension just soaks it up. It's meant to be there. Differences from the KLR. 3 things really. Power. Have to drive it totally different. than the KLR. KLR can go into turns relatively quick, not have much power to get out of the turns when I'm throttling out of a turn. This one's exactly the opposite. I've got to be very careful and slower even going into a curve, because I've got plenty of power to get out of the curve. I know a lot of people with KTMs and BMWs, the 1200cc bikes, they kind of look at this and go, it doesn't have as much power. Well, this has got more power than what I need, as much power as what I need. Even off-road, while I haven't taken it there, I can see me having the same opinion of this has more power than all the power that I need and could want. So power. Brakes. Brakes are notoriously bad on the KLR. You can do some things, of course, to make them better. They're nothing like this bike. This bike has way more brakes, and you can actually change the brakes up and the pressure that are applied on the electronic braking of this bike. This bike does have ABS, it does have traction control, and I'll talk about those in a second. But brakes on a bike on this compared to the KLR. The other thing is the suspension. KLR, of course, is the Jeep of motorcycles, and Jeeps don't often ride really smooth. It's not a luxurious ride. This is not a luxurious ride, and I have problems with the seat. The seat is not the best. I'll be changing that out on this bike. But I will say the suspension on this bike is amazing. Compared to a KLR, you don't rattle, and I don't want that to sound bad, but you don't even think about rattling on this bike. This bike does not rattle. It's smooth. When you're riding this bike, you think of nothing but you've got the power and the smoothness to do anything that you want to. So those are the three biggest things, aside from the DCT. Of course, that's kind of totally separate and out there on its own. But you know, whether you get the manual version of this bike or you get the DCT version, biggest differences that I came away from the KLR is power, having to drive differently, the braking, and how much better these brakes are, and then the smoothness of the ride. Totally different feeling on this bike. A little bit about DCT. DCT, the shifting, you can actually put it in a manual mode, where it works as a manual. It won't automatically shift the gears. You have paddles, plus on the front side of the left grip, and a thumb button paddle to lessen the gears. I have used those, tested them out. Quite honestly, I haven't used them as much as I thought I might. The DCT is so good and so smooth that I think I need to be in a different gear, and I look down and I'm in the gear that I probably wanted to be in the first place. It feels right. It feels like it's shifting gears when it needs to shift gears for my riding style. It does have different modes. You can go from a regular drive mode on this bike, and that's the more fuel economy friendly. It shifts gears. You get up to the highest gears in a quicker amount of time. That way you're not lower in a gear. You kind of running the fuel gauge up. It has three different sport modes. The Sport 1 is the least sporty, up to Sport 3, which is the most sporty. That really feels and is great when you're in the mountains doing the twisties. It feels just like your engine braking. You're using your engine brake. It holds gears longer, and so when you let off and you're coming into a curve, it acts just like your engine brake. But it has three different gears in sport mode. ABS, you can change the ABS, turn it off to the back brake, various traction controls. It does come with 3 different built-in user drive modes, if you will. Urban for like when you're in the city, touring, which is primarily what I'll leave it in, it's in that now. And then there's a gravel mode. And all of those adjust the power that's coming from the engine, from the throttle. This is throttle by wire, so that's why it's able to have those different modes. It changes the power from the throttle and the responsiveness. It changes the braking settings 1 through 3, I think, in the electronic brakes as far as how those are applied, and your traction control is adjusted. It has a user mode. I haven't really played around with that yet, but am anxious to try and learn more about that and see what that does for me. But great differences really quickly, and I'm sure I'll miss a few, between the normal Africa Twin, the standard version, and the Adventure Sports. I think it's about an inch higher. You've got probably about the same inch difference in suspension travel. This has more suspension travel, sits up higher. You've got about an inch more clearance from the ground, so both good things for, again, going off-road. Larger windscreen. This has a taller windscreen than the normal model. Heated grips. Comes with heated grips. Comes with extra bar height. They're not really risers, I guess, but the standard bar height is a little higher to give you a more aggressive or elevated profile. Has a more substantial stainless steel luggage rack. Had a flatter profile on the seat between the main seat and the pillion seat. Larger foot pegs than the standard version, and a crash guard. And Honda really doesn't call them crash bars, and they're pretty much lightweight crash bars. I think Honda actually terms it a light bar. So it does give you some fall protection, but not nearly as much as what you would expect from true crash bars. And I'll be adding some lower crash bars and upper crash bars on this bike here in the near future. First upgrade probably is going to be the seat. Going up to the mountains after about an hour or so, it really hurts my tailbone. I've heard some people very happy with the seat and what it's like and what it does just stock, but I need a new seat. I need a different seat for my body. But more to come on the bike, more adventures with both the KLR, more adventures with the new Africa Twin. Both wonderful bikes, both going to keep again. But anyway, wanted to introduce you to the new Africa Twin Adventure Sports DCT.